안녕하세요. Mr. Chairman, President, guests, ladies and gentlemen, it's a great pleasure and a privilege to be here this morning. So thank you for the opportunity. Now, we had a bit of talk this morning about IT and the wonderful things it is doing, but also there was some discussion about the bad side as well as the good side. I am an engineer, and fundamentally I am positive and an optimist, and I think that on balance the good side will outweigh the bad side. And I'm going to offer you a perspective this morning about coexistence from my company, ARM. Much of what we're talking about at the conference is how human beings interact with technology. I'm going to spend a little bit of time talking about how companies coexist to bring that technology to our human beings. And ARM is a company which is at the center of the transformation of IT. It enables coexistence of companies working together around ARM technology, and in fact our business thrives upon that coexistence. So let's take a step back and, now this is a bit annoying. Can't drive the technology. There we are. Now I've worked out which button to press. Let's take a step back, a short introduction to ARM, because I don't think we are as well known as Microsoft. The technology that ARM produces is microprocessors, and the microprocessor is like the brain of the electronic product. The software which runs on the microprocessor is like the thought in your brain, and together they give character to the electronic products. In a broader sense, what we do is enable intelligence into everyday objects, and as such we're sort of redefining the barrier between the physical world and the digital world. And ARM's been successful at doing that for the last 21 years, and now about 8 billion ARM microprocessor chips are shipped every year. That's about 500,000 of them shipped during the time that I'm talking this morning. So how we do that is as important, if not more so, than what we do. We say on the slide, it is a partnership model. That goes to the heart of this concept of coexistence. Obviously, our business is based on fundamentally sound technology, and the key differentiator of ARM technology is its energy efficiency. But on top of that, the other core competence which we have as a business is partnership, is making companies work together. Our organization is much more than just the boundaries of our company. And the key differentiator that makes our business unique is this combination of the fundamental technology together with the experience and the expertise of partnership. Now, in his keynote this morning, Steve Ballmer said that quite often in technology, the sum of the or the whole thing is greater than the sum of the parts. And that's very much what we see in the way ARM technology comes to market. We have created over the years what is now a vibrant ecosystem of many, many companies. We have 300 or so licensees for our microprocessor technology, and around those licensees we have nearly 1,000 companies around the world working with our technology, optimizing their products to work with ARM, and that is the definition of the ARM ecosystem. And all these companies coexist together with aligned goals and competition that exists between them. Now, if we just take a little example and think about mobile and mobile computing, then on the slide here, we have about 100 of those companies have licensed processors for apps processors in smart devices, and together they ship about 2 million smart devices every day. And we have all sorts of different form factors, thousands of handset platforms, hundreds of tablets, and the interesting thing about the last couple of years is that we've seen an explosion in the number of applications running on these things. More about that later. But because everyone is benefiting from a shared investment here, then the whole is greater than the sum of the parts. If we look at coexistence within the ecosystem, we see different clusters of types of companies working with our technology. On the left-hand side of the slide, we have silicon companies. In the middle, we have software companies. And on the other side, we have product companies building products. And the ecosystem itself becomes sustainable. It's a strong ecosystem, and it gets stronger because of its strength. Because within this ecosystem, the companies have this shared, aligned goals. They share risk, they share return, and at some instances they collaborate. In other instances, they compete. The competition drives innovation and spurs people to develop better products. And the collaboration means efficient use of resources and alignment of R&D. If we look again at the mobile world, then over the 21 years that ARM has been in existence, the mobile world has completely transformed. In the bottom left-hand corner of the slide, we see some pictures of mobile phones from 1990 and computers from 1990. And today we have a complete spectrum of screens, and this slide was developed before I listened to Steve Ballmer talk about his 81-inch screen in his office, so we didn't have that one on the slide, but it's the same concept, a totally joined spectrum from very small to very large. And that's the mobile world. And the evolution of products has changed the way in which we as people interact with the products and changed the way that people use technology. And on these products, everyone's world is different. I don't know how many Samsung Galaxy phones there are in the room. I hazard a guess, quite a big number here. But I wonder how many of them are exactly the same. Probably none. Because everybody has a different set of applications. And in fact, the demonstration of Windows 8 this morning was an excellent demonstration of how the product becomes personalized to the user. And it's the partnership business model that enables this diversity and innovation. And enables, indeed, changing business models as we get further down the value chain. This morning, some earlier speakers highlighted inequality in the digital world. If we go back to the 1960s and look at telecommunications, then a rule of thumb was coined, a law, if you like, GIPS law, which said that teledensity, the density of telecommunications in a region, was roughly proportional to GDP of that region. That was the 1960s. Now, with the mobile revolution, that rule has been completely broken. It's not the case for mobile. Mobile and the ecosystem partnership approach, which is sat behind it, is enabling much more widespread adoption and enabling us to connect the next billion users. Today, although we all in this room probably take the internet for granted, there are 5 billion people on the planet who have no access to the internet today. But that number is coming down quite rapidly as mobile penetrates. So let's start to think about how we as people coexist with all this technology. To start with, we have the user on one side of the slide. And there are many, many types of user, and I hinted a moment ago that there are going to be many, many more users, very different from today's users. And the connections to the digital world have to get a lot better too. Somebody on one of the videos this morning was talking about printing, and clearly that's been around. Written characters have been around for thousands of years. Printing's been around for about 600 years. The good thing about books and magazines is, and I'm carrying some in my bag today, because you don't have to wait for them to boot up. You don't have to wait for them to find a connection to the internet. They're always there. You just open the book and you can start reading. So if we're really to get to that state in the digital world, we still have some way to go. When you start looking into what enables all that, you get a chain, because fantastic evolution in end-user devices, very low-cost small devices to penetrate the developing world, very large devices to go on office walls, and devices in between for work and leisure. These things can have fantastic capabilities, but they're only as good as their connection to the rest of the digital world. And that connection means infrastructure in the mobile network. It means infrastructure in the cloud. And obviously, we've all heard the facts and figures. For every 600 smartphones, we need another server. For every more advanced smart device, we're going to have a lot more data. Perhaps by the end of the decade, 20 times as much data flying around the infrastructure. Well, obviously that's going to cost a lot of money, but it's also unsustainable in terms of power. So back to how we coexist with the technology, what we're doing with this partnership business model is bringing the power efficiency to transform different markets now. Besides the end user devices in mobile, we find a choice and diversity that exists within the ARM ecosystem can apply equally well to infrastructure and to the cloud. And it's the innovation which stems from that business model, which is what enables us to bring this fundamentally lower power, better power efficiency technology to enable scaling of the infrastructure to enable all those devices to become real. And people talk about 70% power savings in infrastructure and 75% power savings within the cloud. These things are going to be absolutely essential if we're going to make that world a reality. Now, technology scales, and we're also finding our technology being used outside of the context of mobile and telecommunications in applications which save a lot of energy. The chart in the middle shows the consumption of electricity in the world, and a huge amount of electricity generated in the world is consumed by electric motors. Another large chunk is consumed heating and cooling the places in which we live. And yet and another chunk is consumed by lighting the environments in which we live. Actually, embedding smart intelligence in everyday objects can help take that pie chart in the middle and reduce the amount consumed by a large amount. So in electric motors and pumps, for instance, which are very widespread in industry and consuming almost half the electricity that we generate in the world, we can, with addition of simple intelligence, save between 25 and 40% of the power consumed. And if you then say, well, all that power has to be generated somewhere and most of it's going to fall out of the wires in transmission on the way to where it's being consumed, then a saving of 25 to 40% is very significant. And these things are applying to all aspects of our everyday lives, not just motors. In fact, if we think about how we can coexist with the technology everywhere, I'll just get another slide up, there we go. We've now reached the stage with advances in semiconductor technology that these things can be so small. We have on the left-hand side ARM's smallest microprocessor yet, about the size of a human hair, for the whole microprocessor. when I started showing people around ARM sort of 10 to 15 years ago, we were talking about structures on the device and comparing them with a human hair. Now we're talking about the whole device and comparing it with a human hair. This smallest ARM microprocessor today, running at a rate which will provide more compute power than that which was used to guide the Apollo 11 landing mission that landed on the moon, more compute power than that, in this thing the size of a human hair, running off a little button cell battery for 15 years. That's the sort of technology that's necessary to put intelligence everywhere and to make real the machine-to-machine learning that we heard about in the keynote this morning. This type of technology is what's needed to underpin that. And on the right-hand side of the slide, you see an example from one of our partners where they've created a whole system, and you can see it there in relation to the size of a penny. And because it's that small, it can be embedded in all sorts of really useful objects. So the limit is not the technology anymore. It's about our imagination and about the applications, and to make this real and to make technology coexist with humanity, we're going to touch every aspect of human lives. And the limit isn't the technology now. We need evolution of ecosystems. I think the partnership model and the coexistence, which has enabled mobile to spring from nowhere to be such a part of everyday lives today, is an excellent example. We learn from mobile, of course, that there are network effects, and so trying to predict exactly how this technology with which we're all going to interact is going to play out is very, very difficult. I would say impossible, but there are people out there who make very good predictions. I'm just not one of them. But we can take some lessons from the mobile ecosystem. Let's look at the lessons and see what we can learn. Well, no company can do it all. It is all about partnership. And it must be sustainable partnership as you go forward, because these products are going to evolve over lots of years. We think technology moves so fast today, and it does, compared with perhaps 30 or 40 years ago. But in reality, it's still quite slow. These flexible screens that people were showing on the video this morning, we've been talking about that sort of thing for years. They've been in development for years, and they're still not a reality. Steve still can't have a big screen in his pocket when his pocket's only big enough for a small one. So the innovation needs to be sustainable. And it's all about having companies working together. It's about having industry sectors working together. The ability to be able to work together on the one hand and compete on another hand is also essential. Another lesson we've taken from the mobile ecosystem. You have the competition to drive innovation. You have the collaboration to use resources efficiently. It's about a sharing investment and sharing the reward, having aligned goals, but having different skills and assets within the ecosystem to achieve the desired result. And if we get that right, then we really will be able to have people interacting with technology and having technology make the world a better place as a result of this coexistence. As I look forward, I see us moving much closer to technology being our slave rather than the other way around, where often today we still tend to be the slaves of the technology. But when the technology is truly our slave, then the world will certainly be a better place. And that's all I have to say, so thank you all very much.